Okay, everybody, it's time for me to get political, so I thought I'd put on my redneck, racist, 10-gallon hat on. Well, actually, it's only a 2-gallon hat, but you don't need to know that. So, this video is called We Need to Talk About Taiwan. And I'm not trying to hide my identity, it's just that light's pretty glary, so I thought I'd put on these Oakley sunglasses that I purchased a year ago, purely for CNC machining and any sort of manufacturing work that we're planning on doing. So, back in the day, I grew up in a predominantly conservative, religious, white bread town, and yet it was still pretty multicultural. So, I spent most of my junior high school days hanging around my Filipino friends who were mixed, had like an Aussie dad and a Filipino mum. And I spent more time in their house than I did my own. They practically adopted me. And then when I got into senior high school, I spent a lot more time at my Taiwanese friends' houses, of one in particular. And the thing what I noticed about both my Filipino friends and my Taiwanese friends is they look the same. So in effect, the indigenous people of Taiwan are actually Polynesian. They're not Chinese. And since, the upheaval of the Japanese invasion into China, a lot of the nationalists under the leadership of Chiang Kai-shek fled from the communists to Taiwan, creating a diaspora. And this has caused a lot of tension between Taiwan and China to this day. So it's all a matter of perspective. I mean, I'm not taking sides in the Russian-Ukraine conflict, so I'm not going to take sides on the Chinese-Taiwanese conflict. But if you want to look at it from the Chinese perspective, they basically want to bring their nationalist Chinese diaspora in Taiwan to heel. At the same time, I think the nationalists basically fled mainland China to have liberty and freedom and not be forced to live under the yoke of socialism or communism. So they all have their own, justifications on why they are the way they are. But additionally, I think China wants to flex its muscle, not so much against the United States, but against the other Asian countries in the territory as a new emerging superpower, and wants to sort of dominate their authority against the Japanese, who they hold a grudge against since the 1930s and the massacre in Nanking and all the atrocities that the Japanese occupying forces did in China. And additionally, they want to flex their muscle against South Korea, who's becoming, a global leader in manufacturing, and also Taiwan. And the thing with Taiwan is a lot of these microprocessors or supercomputer chips used for guidance systems in, missiles and rockets and smart bombs are made out of Taiwan. And the quality is very, very superior compared to what, the Koreans, the Japanese are making. And obviously the stuff that the Chinese are making locally is very subpar. So not only does China want to bring the nationalist rebels, which form a majority diaspora in Taiwan, to heel, not only do they want to take the territory of Taiwan into their sphere of influence, so then they can assert their authority against the Japanese and the Koreans and even potentially the Philippines. But in the game, it's all about money. It's all about some sort of, commodity. I mean, World War One was about Prussia and Austro-Hungary trying to extend their empires, and the Ottomans trying to retain their empire, which was falling apart. World War Two was about, the Germans sort of trying to retain what they had under the Prussian Empire by taking Poland and Czechoslovakia again. And essentially also Japan, which was growing bigger than it could sustain, taking on more territory to feed its empire, which was expanding. And I think this conflict with Taiwan is about China going for the trifecta. They want to bring the nationalist diaspora of exiles who've now intermarried with the local Polynesian race of indigenous Taiwanese to heal, but they also want to expand their territory and also have more control of the shipping lanes in the South China Sea. But additionally, they desperately want those microprocessors, those computer super chips for their guidance systems. Because it's not a question of collateral damage. They don't care if they kill innocent civilians. But the thing is, they have a finite amount of resources in their arsenal, and they don't want to waste their bombs and their missiles on random stuff when they've got legitimate targets to go against. So, I mean, I'm not going to take sides, but I'm going to tell you that I had friends who were Taiwanese, and both the boys looked very Polynesian, and their sister looked Chinese, because I think they were mixed family as well, and they were very warm, lovely people. And on the other side of the coin, I know a lot of people from mainland China, and a lot of people who are Cantonese, who are my physicians, who are very nice people too. So I know it looks like I'm a redneck with this hat, but this is my political hat and the sunglasses. But yeah, I'm just coming off a flu. So it's all a matter of perspective. I mean, China's doing a lot of bad things to the Uyghurs, who are Muslims in the West. They've been suppressing the Buddhists in Tibet for quite a long time. But, I mean, look, the United States didn't give two bars about the Jews in World War II. To be quite honest, the British had better intelligence than the Americans did, and they didn't give two bars about the Jews back then too. And that's the same thing with the Civil War in America. I mean, slavery wasn't on the itinerary when the South basically broke away from the North. It was only something that Abraham Lincoln stated a couple of years later in the Emancipation Proclamation to stop Britain and other European countries from arming the South, to create some sort of embargo or boycott against European weapons like Enfield rifles from Britain coming into the hands of the Confederates. So I don't think no one really cares about the Uyghurs. No one really gives a damn about the Tibetans. And when the war breaks out between Taiwan, I don't think anyone gives a damn about the indigenous population of Polynesian Taiwanese or the nationalist, diaspora of Chinese who've lived there for decades. At the end of the day, it's all going to be about property, land, microprocessors, money, and brass tacks. So this conflict is probably, a couple of years away, but when it happens, it's going to be like every other conflict. It's all going to be about the bottom dollar. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. But if you have any comments or disagree with me, please put it down in the posts. I really am impartial. I just thought you guys should know all the facts. Signing off.